We have finally arrived at September 22nd, the day of the Vasil hardfork Combinator event. We've really been waiting for this 12 months, ever since it was clear that the Alonzo hardfork wouldn't deliver everything that would be necessary for a healthy dApp ecosystem. Today is the day we level up, and the developers begin to get the tools they've needed for so long. Like farming on a hillside, the going hasn't been easy or simple, but now all the terraces are built, all the seeds have been planted, and it's that era when we can just monitor our bounty of crops until harvest time. Ready? Let's go. Today, we'll discuss the exact time the Vasil hardfork Combinator event will actually occur, the Federal Reserve's activities yesterday, Pavia taking an important regulatory step, a big move at one of the most important centralized exchanges, and the announcement of the Cardano Island land claim event date. If this image makes you think, I really appreciate that farmer's efforts, but that looks like rice, and I'm definitely on the carnivore diet. Or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider, especially in the post-fossil era, delegating to the army of spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Here it is, guys. Vasil is going down today at 2144 UTC. If you're in North America and you have no idea what UTC is, that would be equivalent, if I've done my math right, or my Googling right at least, that would be 2:44 p.m. Pacific, 5:44 p.m. Eastern. So this is a post from IOG, and they've got a nice little explanation here. They say the hardfork Combinator event will happen at the protocol level today at this time. The new capabilities will become available for developers to utilize on mainnet exactly 1 epoch later. You probably know 1 epoch is 5 days, so that would put us on the 27th. Some things actually will be live with the hard fork that happens today at 2144 UTC, but some of the other things will go live on the 27th. This really is a momentous occasion. We've discussed everything ad nauseum over the last several months leading up to this hard fork event, but SIPs 31 through 33, reference inputs, inline datums, reference scripts, SIP 40, collateral outputs, diffusion pipelining, these are all great new features of the Cardano blockchain, tools for the developers in the cases of many of these updates. This is a big change, and one we've been waiting for a really long time. But we won't get into the details today because we've discussed these things so many times in the past. Today is the day we just watch these things unfurl, at least over the next 5 days, and enjoy ourselves. But this is Cardano. We never rest for long. We get back to work quickly, like Pavia has obviously already done. They posted, on the 1st of September, our CEO met with a minister at the House of Commons in London and informally discussed blockchain, crypto assets, NFTs, and the metaverse. As a result, we've produced an MP's guide to crypto assets, which we've just delivered to all 650 members of Parliament of the United Kingdom. I love this when projects try to get ahead of the regulatory curve. You could just sit around, be sort of passive spectators to the regulatory scene, and wait for the regulators to come after you for one reason or another at any certain point in the future. Or you can do like Pavia is doing here. You can go to the policymakers in your neck of the woods, wherever that might be, and start engaging with them. You'll notice this is something that Charles has done on pretty much on behalf of all of Cardano. Charles is testifying before Congress because that makes it a lot less likely that when his name comes up, he won't have any friends in Washington. When some regulator starts talking about Cardano, instead of Cardano having 0 friends in Washington, Cardano will know some people. If you pay attention to the macroeconomic landscape, you know that yesterday the US Federal Reserve hiked the federal funds rate by 75 basis points. That's a 0.75% hike. This is pretty substantial once again. And the New York Times here is giving us a more polished graphical representation of the dot plot. We've looked at the actual dot plot from the FOMC meeting notes in the past. The New York Times has actually done a better job here of giving you sort of a polished graphical representation of that same dot plot. So the way this works, the Federal Reserve surveys a bunch of people in the Federal Reserve System. Some of these people involved in the survey aren't even actually members of the FOMC at the moment, but they are a part of the Federal Reserve System. And they survey all of them, and they get an idea where all these individuals think the federal funds rate will be at the end of certain periods. In this case, the New York Times is showing us the end of 2022 and the end of 2023. Each of these little human icons represents one person's feelings. And as you can see, there's one outlier, probably the same person in both the survey periods here. And this one person is the only one who thinks the federal funds rate will be under 4% by the end of 2022. This person, I'm guessing it's the same person, also thinks the rate will be under 4% at the end of 2023. Every other person thinks it'll be over 4% at the end of 2022 and over 4.75, with the average person up here putting it at, what is this, 4.6. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 4.6, something like that. The average person putting the rate somewhere between 4.5%, a little over 4.5%. But some people believing that the rate by the end of 2023 will be up closer to 5%. Why do we care about this? We care about this because whether we like it or not, the crypto markets are still deeply correlated to other asset markets like the equities markets. And the equities markets seem to be very deeply impacted by rising federal rates like this. Whenever the rates are going up, we kind of have an idea that it may not be a boom time for the equities markets. And that's the reaction we've seen recently. If we come over here and take a peek at the US markets, you can see that the markets did not love what they saw out of the Fed today. And I don't think it was necessarily the 75 basis point hike. I think everybody was kind of expecting that. I think the part they really didn't love was, once again, this speech that Jerome Powell gave, his remarks that were delivered today, in which he pretty much made it clear that he still stands by his assessment that history is very clear that the Federal Reserve should not change course too early whenever they're trying to control inflation like this. He seems to have a very strong perspective that the big mistake here is for the Fed to change course too quickly when they're hiking rates like this and sort of ease off the rate hikes too soon. So he made it pretty clear. His language was pretty strong that they're going to keep hiking the rate, and the dot plot sort of reflects the same. So I think it's becoming more and more clear to the US equities markets that they are not going to see any reprieve from these rate hikes anytime soon. And if you want to go watch Jerome Powell's remarks, they're on YouTube. He talks a lot about employment and inflation and different markers that are basically leading them to believe that the time to diminish their hikes is not now. It's definitely some point in the future. In fact, the FOMC isn't alone in its expectations for continued hikes in the federal rate. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, has recently been quoted as saying, "The Fed raising rates to over 5% wouldn't be surprising." And he said that in this meeting where they delivered on a 75 basis point hike, he said if he was there, he's obviously just the former Treasury Secretary, but if he was in the Fed in that meeting and he had a choice between 50 basis points and 100 basis points, he would have voted for 100 basis points. If you believe this is anything to go off, then crypto winter may indeed be pretty long, guys, regardless of anything our favorite blockchains may do. Jesse Powell, CEO of Kraken, has stepped down from that CEO post. From now on, he'll just be the chairman of Kraken. The COO will take over as CEO in his place. This is not really a surprise. If you followed Jesse Powell's posts, Here in this Fortune article, he's characterized as a libertarian. I think that's right. I think I've heard him call himself a libertarian, but definitely you can see if you follow along with his social media posts, you can definitely see how a lot of his sensibilities might not be consistent with normal sort of Silicon Valley tech political leanings. No surprise that eventually he decided it was just easier for him not to be the one running the company. Of course, I believe in everything I've seen, he sort of chalked this up to running the company just not being as fun as it used to be because it's gotten to be a bigger company, that kind of thing, which is the kind of thing you say when you're the CEO stepping down from your position. But this is all kind of reminiscent of Brian Armstrong and Coinbase. At a certain point, I think it was last year, Brian Armstrong had to come out and declare that Coinbase was going to be an apolitical corporate organization just to head off the sort of difference in culture between the kind of early crypto libertarian sensibilities that I think run deep in a lot of crypto founders and tech employees, especially in Northern California, who tend to have very different political sensibilities. Finally, Virtua Dev update number 3 just dropped, and I won't bury the lead. We found out exactly when the land claim event is going down. Friday, September 30th. The land claim event will be Friday, September 30th. We knew it was going to happen this month, and I kind of had an idea it was going to be pretty close to the end of the month, but turns out that is the date. So you already know what it is, but this is the event where we take our land deeds and we get to actually pick out the parcel on the map that land deed will be allocated to. So we'll actually get to decide where on the map our lands will be. I'm excited for this, and I like these Virtua Dev updates because it feels like they're not really doing some of these projects. It feels like it's just like a straight sales job, like it's 100% marketing. With these Virtua Dev updates, it's more like an actual dev update. Like I feel like they're definitely putting their best foot forward, but I feel like they give us a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain as to what goes down when you're actually building a metaverse like this. We get a little bit more of a look behind the scenes at what goes into building a metaverse like this. Maybe it's because their team is so big, and if you're running this organization like Jawad, you're deep in the trenches right about now. You're very deep in the detailed work of building out this metaverse. So that's what he tends to talk about, which is great because, like I said, some of these projects, you feel like you're just kind of watching a sales reel sometimes. But with this project, you get a little bit more of a look behind the scenes, and you feel like you're getting kind of an honest take of what it's like to be the one building a metaverse like this. So they also give us some more useful information. They said the first priority will be building out the inside spaces. Then they'll move on to other things. This is something they've said before, but anytime a question comes up in one of these AMAs and it has to do with the timing of something, when is this thing going to happen? They always mention that after the land claim event and the crib event, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, the first priority will be building out the inside spaces, which I like because I want to use those inside spaces. They'll be working on web, desktop, and mobile. Then things like Oculus will be a later focus. Of course, Virtua famously is kind of focused on the Ready Player One type future. So they are thinking about things like VR and AR, and Oculus, they said when that'll be something that could come after they build out the web, desktop, and mobile experiences. A question came up about whether or not regular game controllers could be used. They said regular game controllers could be a thing with the desktop version, while different controls would be used with something like mobile. If we end up acquiring adjacent lands, would we be able to connect them? They said that's something that's technically possible, but it isn't any kind of initial focus. It's not something they're focused on. I think maybe that's something they hadn't really considered yet. Obviously, that's pretty minute detail that'd be pretty far down the priority list. They said after the land claim event will be the crib event, where we'll get our actual villas dropped to us. The condo event, where you choose your tower, will come after that. So we'll have the land claim event, where we'll pick our parcel, the crib event, where we'll get sort of the villa, the actual building, dropped to us. Then will come the condo event. If you have a condo, where you choose your tower, the floor of the tower will be based on luck in the mint, but you'll get to choose the tower, it sounds like. The land claim will be desktop only, no mobile. They said they really want people to be able to zoom in and much harder on mobile. So they're going to stick with desktop for the mint. And I believe they said that Anvil will be helping them with this mint as well, which is great news because Anvil did a fantastic job in the last mint. They tried to do the last mint. Virtua tried to do it on their own. And then they brought in Anvil to help them after like the first day. And Anvil did a great job after they came in. They will put out a roadmap that will take us through the middle of next year. And it sounds like the roadmap is chock full of good things. Virtua is pretty mysterious. They're not like in any rush to give us details. Some projects, they're just like constantly trying to pump you up with expectation and anxiousness for whatever's the next big thing. Virtua is kind of like the exact opposite. Virtua is like, here we are. It's the 22nd and they're telling us about something that's happening in 8 days. A lot of projects would have told us like 80 days ago, so they could pump that event for like 80 days, Virtua, they're a little more chill, a little more low key. They do not try to overhype anything. They're kind of like the underhypers, which I kind of like. It feels, you get a very honest tone out of Virtua because they don't really hype anything. They just kind of do it. They just kind of do the thing. It's delivering. I love that. I hope you enjoy Vasil Day. This will pretty much be the only Vasil Day in the history of Cardano, and I think it is a big momentous day. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.